Previously, in the last episode, with grief in my heart and vengeance on my mind, I gathered a small band of companions and took to the road. Our journey led us to the mountain village of Fanub, where we found a new recruit and a desperate father named Thacker. His daughter had been kidnapped by desert bandits, and he offered us good coin if we could bring her back and deal with the men responsible. Following the only lead we had, we rode once again to Quayas. There, we found a man named Abdul, a man who knew the bandits. I gave him the last of my coin, and in return, he revealed the location of the bandits' hideout, hidden near the southern mountains of the Asarai lands. Now we ride toward that hideout. A dangerous plan has been made. Tonight, I sneak into the bandit camp alone. I am Wusur, son of the sea, of the clan Banu Yatash. Welcome to episode 3. I hid in the darkness, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would give me away, or kill me before the enemy ever could. Every breath felt loud, every movement dangerous. From the shadows, I watched them carefully. Some of the bandits were asleep, sprawled near the fire, their weapons carelessly at their side. Others were awake, patrolling the camp, their eyes scanning the darkness. They were not fools. This would not be easy. I tightened my grip on my blade, steadying myself. If we were to survive this, if I was to save the girl and avenge my family, I would have to take them, one by one, silently without mercy. Then, one of the patrols came too close. I dropped low, hiding in the grass, barely daring to breathe as his footsteps drew nearer. For a moment, I thought he had seen me, but then he turned his back. That was my chance. In one swift motion, I drew my blade and struck. The steel sank into his back, and he let out only a short gasp before collapsing into the sand. I moved forward through the shadows, step by step, careful not to make a sound. Then I saw a man resting by the fire, unaware, unguarded. It was not his night. For a moment, I watched him, the flames dancing across his face, as if the world was still at peace. But it was not. I had no choice. I crept closer, my blade ready, my breath slow and steady. Then, I struck. The steel drove into his back, and his body went still before he could cry out. The fire continued to crackle, as if nothing had happened, and I moved on, deeper into the camp, into the darkness. But then, one of them saw me. The fight was on. I have to survive. I struck first, before he could shout, before he could warn the others. My blade found him quick and final. He fell where he stood, and the camp remained silent. For a moment, I didn't move. Then the weight of it hit me, relief. I walked deeper into the camp. For a moment, I stopped and checked my blade, the steel dark in the night. My breathing slowed as I listened and watched. Then, I scanned the area ahead, searching the shadows for any sign of movement or danger. I saw one of the guards, hiding behind the rocks. I froze, lowering myself into the shadows, careful not to make a sound. Every step mattered now. I had to be quiet, or everything would be lost. I was already wounded from the fight before. The pain never left me. It lingered with every breath, every step. It burned through my side. But I have to survive tonight. And with a swift move, I struck him from behind. My blade cut deep, and he fell without a sound. But there was a problem. His friend was on the way. I heard the footsteps, getting closer, too close. There was no time to think. I moved quickly, slipping into the bushes, lowering myself into the shadows as fast as I could. I held my breath. I saw the perfect opportunity. Before he could react, before he could shout, I moved. Quick, silent, decisive. My blade struck true, and he fell where he stood, never given the chance to raise the alarm. Then, I turned my focus to another target. He was crouched low, working on something near the ground. I couldn't tell what it was. The darkness hid it from me. Only the faint glow of the fire flickered across his hands, and I moved closer, into the shadows. From the looks of it, I could tell what they were. Sea raiders. I had heard stories of them, brutal, relentless men who lived by the blade and the storm. But I had never faced one in battle before. Not like this, not alone, in the dark. And then, he saw the body. There was no time left, no place to hide. I fought once again, with almost no strength left, my body heavy, my wounds burning with every movement. I truly thought this would be the end. But somehow, I struck him down. He fell, and the night swallowed the sound. Once again, no one noticed. I continued through the hideout, every step careful, every breath held. Then I saw the fire, flickering against the dark stone walls. That was the signal. The plan was simple: light an arrow when I was ready to attack, and everything would begin. But there was a problem. I had no arrows. A cold realization settled in. No signal, no attack, no plan. There was only one choice left. I had to steal from the sea raiders, and hope they wouldn't see me coming. Through my head was also going the words of Takir, that he would give us the coin. We had to rescue the daughter. I remembered something. We had no food. Hunger gnawed at me, sharp and relentless, but there was no time to dwell on it. I glanced around. Only 2 enemies remained. 2, alone, vulnerable. The choice was clear: strike now or risk losing everything. With brute force, I struck. The first enemy fell before I even had time to think. The sound of his body hitting the ground echoed in the hideout, cold, final, undeniable. There was no mercy, only survival. One left, and my heart pounded in my chest as I prepared for the next move. I watched the second one. As he patrolled the area, every step he took echoed in the silent hideout. Every glance over his shoulder kept me on edge. My hands itched for action, but I had to wait, had to be patient. One wrong move now, and it would all be over. One swing, and he was dead. The moment was brutal, swift, final. Silence swallowed the hideout, broken only by my ragged breathing. And then I saw a bow and a quiver of arrows lying there, as if they knew I would need them. The firelight glinted off the polished wood. The fletching of the arrows almost seemed to shimmer. For a moment, hope sparked in the darkness, a chance to turn the tide, if I was quick enough. Out of nowhere, a spear struck me. Pain shot through my side, sharp and unforgiving, knocking the wind from my lungs. I stumbled, barely catching myself, heart hammering, mind racing. But I still fought, every ounce of strength I had. Pain seared through me with every move. Yet I refused to fall, refused to give in. From the crowd, he stepped out, the bandit leader tall, menacing, eyes like burning coals. He didn't just glare, he radiated fury. Every step toward us heavy with threat. It was clear. He was not happy to see us, and in that instant, I knew this fight was far from over. Let's leave the end for the next episode. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.